Well, for more on Brazil's elections and the economy, Mauricio Savarese joins us live from Sao Paulo. He's a correspondent for the Associated Press based in Brazil. Welcome, Mauricio.
Thanks for having me.
So help us understand, what was it about Bolsonaro's platform that resonated most with Brazilians?
Well, Brazil has lived during those last 4 years under a massive corruption scandal that has made Brazil's economy shrink, and lots of unemployed people have also taken aim at the establishment politicians for that. So Bolsonaro, running as an outsider, despite the fact that he has been in Congress for 28 years, managed to deliver that message more clearly, that he was change, he was anti-corruption, and he could also address a third problem that Brazilians are facing, which is a huge crime rate, especially in Rio de Janeiro, his home state at the moment. Brazil has a very high level of crime. 60,000 people were killed violently in Brazil last year, and Bolsonaro promised to take aim at those criminals very harshly. Although that also fostered a big rejection because his rhetoric is very aggressive and not only against minority, but also against poor people living in communities of Rio and São Paulo that are endangered themselves. That has resonated reasonably with Brazil's middle class, upper class, and part of the poor who are also victims. So that has given him an election that no one really expected about 1 year ago. They expected other candidates to be more competitive, centrist candidates especially, or former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. But then in the end, it was Bolsonaro's message that was delivered best.
Now, we know that details of Bolsonaro's economic plan seem to be a bit light at the moment, but things are in the hands of Paulo Guedes, his top economic advisor. What do we know about him and their vision for Brazil?
Well, it's they're sort of saying that they want to privatize some companies, but then they backtrack on some of them. I remember the case of Eletrobras, Brazil's electric company, that was supposed to be put on sale if Bolsonaro wins, but they have already backtracked on that. I know that China has big interest in Brazil's electric sector, and that was one of the jewels of the crown of a privatization model, but Bolsonaro has already backtracked on that. He has promised to liberalize the economy and make it more efficient, but there's very little evidence that could be delivered soon. Brazil has a huge fiscal problem, which will be tackled mostly by raising taxes. That's what most experts expect. But the burden is already too big for a lot of people, and Bolsonaro's message is not about cutting taxes. So for his economy message to be delivered, he will have to pick a side. He will have to pick the financial market, who has massively gone for his campaign because of all the promises he has made of making pension reform, of cutting fiscal debt, or he will address some of the proposals he made to the poor, such as increasing social programs and trying to bring more investors to Brazil so the jobs can come back.
Right.
I would say that this is a very doubtful moment for most people investing in Brazil's economy.
Now, it's interesting because Bolsonaro has been called the tropical Trump, but looking at their policies, would you say that's a fair assessment?
No, I would say that he's much more closely related to Philippines President Rodrigo Duterte, who has also managed a pro-gun, anti-corruption message. Bolsonaro's rhetoric is very much in that direction. Bolsonaro also has a very anti-communist platform, saying that he will not negotiate with communist countries or communist leaders at any level. He has also said this morning that his economy advisor has said this morning that Mercosur, South America's trade bloc, is also too ideological for him. So he wants to negotiate bilateral agreements, mostly with the United States and its allies, because Bolsonaro has shown very much sympathy for President Trump and his allies. I would say he is sort of Trump in the message, but the delivery that he promises has more to do with Rodrigo Duterte of the Philippines, because that's what gave him the election.
And just quickly, as we look at Bolsonaro's victory, what does that mean for regional relations as well as key trading partners like China?
Well, I would say the relationship with China is clearly a little strained. I remember in the beginning of the year when Bolsonaro visited Taiwan, China sent a message to the parliamentary mission that went there, just saying that there needs to be a better relationship and a better conversation with Beijing. He has also said that China is buying Brazil. He wants to stop that. And I think that he needs to talk to China at a different level. China is Brazil's biggest trading partner, and the message so far has been mostly favorable to the United States, but not so much for China. And Brazil massively depends on China. The financial crisis that Brazil has lived through has basically been stemmed by China because of all the foreign investment that China has made in Brazil's infrastructure. So there's a lot of work to be done, and Bolsonaro is highly ideological in that sense, and he will have to moderate. We haven't seen any signs this far that he will moderate, but maybe Brazil's reality will force him to change direction.
All right, thank you so much for your insights. Mauricio Savarese, Brazil correspondent for the Associated Press.